I'm Christina. I know most of you guys, but I am the minister's wife here. So a lot of people know me and come up to me and they're like, "Oh, how are you with the kids?" And I was like, "I'm great. Who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, we know Shane." So come on in. Okay, there may be. Okay, yep. But for those who don't know me well, my husband has been here on staff for 10 years. We actually met at Ozark Christian College in Joplin. I had no intention of marrying a pastor, although I wanted the MRS degree, because as Teresa says, you go to a Christian college to get married.
They push it.
I know. Yeah. So we went there and Shane and I got married. I finished with a worship ministry degree, which I don't use at all. But I had a really great conversation with my vocal teacher and I told her, "You pushed me out of my comfort zone and it's the only reason I'm able to do this kind of stuff right now." So we have 4 children. Emma, you'll see bopping around in here. She's 14. Then I have James, who's 11, and John Luke is 8, and then we have an 18-month-old who was a surprise, but absolutely love my whole crew. And I have been a stay-at-home wife and mom since we found out I was pregnant. So I was still finishing college when I became pregnant with Emma, and Shane was like, "Hey, you're doing college, you're doing a little bit here and there, let's try to keep you at home." And I was like, awesome, because you know when little girls, they're like, "I want to be a princess. I want to be the president." I wanted to be a mom. That was my dream job, is to be home, taking care of my kids, taking care of my home, making homemade meals. It's what I grew up with. And so I wanted to do the same thing. And so I'm going to give you a fair warning that you guys actually may leave this class with more questions than you do have answers. And it's because I firmly believe that you cannot grow unless you are seeking wisdom and knowledge. If you do not continue to grow and ask questions, you're going to be stagnant, and you're not going to grow furthering your ministry, your life, your family, your faith. So you probably won't get a ton of, "Oh, I know all the answers to my questions," when we walk out of here. You're probably going to go home and, as Teresa said, you're going to wrestle with them, because I want you to see what God is asking of you rather than what the world is telling you a quick fix for. So you guys each have your journals, and I want you to write down a couple of these questions, and what I'm going to do is give you a minute in between. I'm going to set a timer, because there we go. I had to find my timer. Because looking in this room, I knew I was not going to have all young moms in here. That's just unreasonable, because the conference that we have 14-year-olds up to, I believe, 87-year-olds. So I know some of you guys are coming in as grandparents. You're coming in as moms. You're coming in as expecting moms and soon to be married. So we have such a vast difference in this one room that I'm not coming to you as okay, you have to be a stay-at-home mom. You have to not have an outside job. You have to love to cook. That's not what I'm telling you, because that's not practical. So what I would love for you to do is, for the first minute, I want you to answer the question, who is involved in my home? Is that you have children? Do you have grandchildren? Do you have adult children living in your home? Maybe your home is a dorm room. Maybe your home is your work. So I have a nurse who's in here. That may be who is involved in your home. So it's not your 4 walls, but maybe I should say, who's involved in your bubble? Who do you get to interact with? So, you guys have about a minute to do that. And it may not do a full minute. We'll see how everybody's doing. So Kelsey, you just walked in. We're writing down who belongs, or like who is involved with our home or our bubble. Mostly your home. Oh, okay. Now I had to figure out how to stop my alarm. So we talked about kids, family, coworkers, like who we get to influence. So the next one is what? What comes to mind when you think of your home? So when I think of my home, I think of home-cooked meals, creativity, maybe fun. I'm sorry, that is not mine. I am not a fun person. My fun is boring. But are there images that you picture? Are there smells? Are there feelings? So I'll set a minute for that. I grew up in a home with a baker. So the smell of chocolate chip cookies baking immediately brings me back to my childhood. So just anything you can think of, or memories. If there's memories from grandparents' houses, vacations that you took. Any memories that you can think of, like if you and Dustin had a memory of, before you had kids or after you had kids, just any memory that you're like, that is home. When the irises bloom. My mom had gardens full of irises. I see an iris, and that to me that's home. Because my mom was one who can look at flowers and they're beautiful. I look at them and they die. Yeah. All right, so the next question we're going to look at is, when will you take time to cultivate? And this can either be literally a time of day, like I'm going to set aside 30 minutes in the morning to just talk words of encouragement to my husband. This can also be a goal for Grace is getting married next year. That's why we haven't set the date for this event, because we're working with each other. But she may be like, in a year, I want to have a home established so that her and Connor are starting on a good footing. So think of goals, time frames, just anything that is a when you think you want to cultivate to get there. So for those who just came in, we're asking these questions, and I'm giving a minute for us to jot down. And I can get you it's the typical who, what, when, why, and how. Okay? And the last one that we'll have a minute to write down on is why. Why are the people who came to mind importance to you? Why are the what's, the picture, the smell, the memories, why are they important to you? Because the whys are the fundamental reasons why any of it even matters. And if you don't have a reason for your why, you're not really going to follow through with it because there's no goal or purpose behind it. So there's a minute for that one. Okay. So the last question I'm going to actually send you home with is the how. I'm going to give you kind of my backstory of how I came to what this class is kind of about. But as I said, you're going to leave this class with more questions than you will answers. But you now, with what you've written down, have somewhat of a direction that you're going in. So I started out this year, 2026, as I do many years, 2025, 2024. Everybody starts the year off with a goal. Whether they intend to or not, there is like, oh, I would really love to do fill in the blank. What's more popular now is instead of a goal, it's a word of the year. So this year, having 4 children, stepping into the role of women's ministry leader, Shane going all of his directions, simplified. It's like that sounds lovely. To simplify everything. Not to have so much chaos. My daughter is in marching band that I am the now band booster president for. I'm the president of the library board in town. And I was like, oh, to simplify everything would be just glorious. But every time I tried to simplify something, it went against what my values were. So in today's technology, to simplify something would be instead of having a journal and a pen, you have your phone or your tablet because you can have all your journals on it. I was going to have a journal for my Bible study, journal for my prayers, journal for just me to get stuff out of my head, a journal for everything. And I was like, awesome, I'll just have it all on my tablet. But my brain does not differ between I'm texting somebody, I'm journaling, and I'm scheduling as if I have my Bible is a Bible journal. I now know when I look at my Bible, that's what I'm focused on. I have a journal that I've decorated as well. It is where I write in almost daily, just what is going through my head, because I'm one who keeps everything in my head and I have to get it out or my brain will glitch. And that's what brings on the anxiety attacks. So when the world says to simplify, I'm thinking, oh, technology. That's, okay, robot vacuums. Yes. I don't want to spend my time cleaning up after my 4 children, 2 dogs, and a cat. I'm going to get a robot vacuum. Guess what I did? I now clean up after the robot vacuum. I literally have to go room to room, make sure everything's picked up off the floor, make sure that there's no cables or cords, and if one of my dumb dogs has an accident, guess what it doesn't detect? So now my robot vacuum is sitting in my garage in timeout because I haven't cleaned it. And I'm thinking, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'm trying to simplify. I bought the robot vacuum to simplify. And so I'm going to be honest with y'all. I may have cheated a little bit in getting my answers. And I'm going to encourage you to find a friend or a family member. If you want to come up and talk to me sometime, I am more than happy to talk about this. I use ChatGPT. So I use the internet because I did not have someone to voice what I was trying to understand. So I got on the internet and I typed in, said, okay, I want to simplify my life. But I'm a stay-at-home mom. I do this, this, and this. I have 4 children these ages. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Why is this not working? And I typed in when I think of simplified. I closed my eyes and I went chickens. How is that simplifying anything? I know, I've had conversations with you guys. I want to make bread, but I don't just want to make bread. I want to mill my own grain to make the bread. How is that simplifying? I could just go to the store, buy a loaf of bread, but no, instead I have to go find the wheat berries, find the grain mill, which you know is not, grain mills are out of stock everywhere. Then I have to go home, convert my recipe, mill the berries, then mix everything in, let it rise, bake it, let it rest, dump it, not cut hot, warm bread and put butter on it immediately because then it just deflates, instead of just going to the store and buying a loaf of bread. So I was like, what is this? Why is simplified my answer? It's not reaching my values. And I said, when I think of my grandma. My grandma baked, my grandparents owned a bakery. And so that's where the love of bread baking comes from. But my grandma worked so much harder than I have to right now. And yet that's what I think of as simplified. And so going back and forth, our world says to simplify things by outsourcing it. I want to simplify things by removing the outsource. I don't want to be on the social media. I don't want to be insourcing all of this knowledge that it becomes overwhelming and I'm now drained. And so I kind of went through with these questions and I was like, why are these two not meeting up? And I came back and I said, okay, I need help to have this root that I can stand on so that as more come into my home, I can run it through filters and be like, okay, is this worth keeping or is this not worth keeping? So what it gave me is, and I'm going to ask you all because there's been differentiating. Is it hearth or hearth? Hearth? Hearth. Okay, so that's where the school teacher says hearth. We've had conversations and I've said it both ways. So hearth, it says what you're looking for is almost a keeper of the hearth. The hearth is what warms the home. The hearth is what kept the food coming. Back in, we joked about the 1900s, but the early 1900s, if you didn't have a fire going in the middle of winter, you froze. If you didn't have a fire going, even in my grandparents' home in the 1940s, I think, I may be off on the times, they constantly had a fire going because my grandma was always baking bread. That's how you kept their family alive. You gathered around the fire. We still do that with campfires and bonfires. Whenever we want to get together as a group of friends and family, we're like, come on over, let's have a bonfire. We got some food, drinks, have the kids go run off chasing, fireflies. But it gave me that as a suggestion. And I kind of struggled with it for a little bit Because I was like, that sounds old-fashioned. It doesn't sound simplified. But then it kept bringing me back to my values. I value slow living, not fast-paced chaos. And our world today says, do all the things because you only live once. And my values say, yeah, you only live once, so you might as well choose some good things to be rooted in so you do them well. So my what said home-cooked meals, baking bread, keeping my home clean, canning. Haven't fully ventured to that yet. I did make some red bud jelly that is amazing, I do have to say. But when I think of all of that, I think of what Teresa said this morning. You had Mary and you had Martha. And Mary sat at Jesus' feet. Martha was doing the cooking. Martha was doing the cleaning. Martha was making sure the tea was warm. Martha was getting the drinks ready. Martha made sure that the bread was ready. And that's where you have to sit. You have to sit in it and be in it. You have to know where your roots are, what your values are. And so when I asked again ChatGPT, because I did not have a friend face-to-face, because I'm going to tell you, Shane's amazing at so many things. Asking him slow living, he's not a slow living kind of person. He is fast-paced. He likes to go. He likes to get it done. If he can do something on the phone real quick, he will do it. And I'm like, no, let's have him over for coffee. And he's like, it's an email. We can just email them. I was like, but where's the personality in that? So when I, went back to ChatGPT, I said, okay, so give me some filters so that I can kind of run my life through it. And for my side of things, it says, does this bring warmth and order to my home, or does it strive for perfection? Because I'm a perfectionist. Perfection does not provide warmth or comfort. It usually is cold because I don't want toys on the floor with my 4 children. Like, there's always toys and underwear on our floor. I have 2 boys who, it gets dropped. I don't understand it. It says, does this honor effort? Does this honor effort where effort matters? Does it build work that builds you up or that drains you? So this is where it came in with my bread baking. I could go to the store, spend 5 minutes, $3. I could go to the store, buy a loaf of bread, get home, make my kids sandwiches. But baking bread makes me stop. I have to sit there and measure it out. Now I bring my kids in with it because I've kind of gotten to the realm of it, that I get to spend one-on-one time with one of my children and teaching them how to bake bread, which is not an art that most of us know how to do. It makes me stop and knead the dough. It makes me stop to stretch it out and hold it up to the light to see if you can see the light through it without it ripping, to get that window pane effect. That's when you know that your dough is done. You cannot rush baking bread. It gives me that slow down that I can be standing there for 8 minutes watching my mixer knead my dough, saying, God, thank you. Thank you for providing this home for me. Thank you for providing the electricity that I don't have to knead by hand all of this dough that I'm making for my family who devours a loaf of bread in a 24-hour period. So it's asking me, is the effort that's putting out draining, or is it actually filling me? Because we were not made to sit. God created us to do, but to do it well, to do it for His glory, and not for the seeking of others gratifications, or our own? Does it protect my energy for what is essential? I'm probably going to go hibernate after today for the next week. I am an introvert. I don't people extremely well, but this is where one of those things, it says, a hearth keeper does not allow themselves to burn out. If it empties the keeper, it weakens the hearth. So yes, today, I'm going to be drained. Shane already knows he's covering dinner. I will not be any use. I will go home. I will love my children and sit on the couch and watch cartoons with them. That is my plan and goal for today. But on average, what you're doing, is it weakening you, your strength, your faith, your beliefs, your abilities? Or is it building it? And this is where you bring in God's gifts and God's talents. And sometimes what we think our gifts and talents are is not what God is calling us to do. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I would be doing this, I've been like, you have the wrong person. I don't like speaking in front of people. I don't like being in charge of anything. And here I am loving it only because of what God has done. And He made me step out and fulfill what He was asking for my calling for right now. Another question was, does this align with my values, or is it just passing noise? So this is why I haven't gotten chickens yet. Because I'm like, I don't want one more thing to keep alive. That's my rule right now, is no more keeping things alive. I have enough, but I kind of want chickens. So I'm running it through this filter of, okay, is it a part of my values? Or is it passing noise that I'm excited about right now, that in 3 months I'm like, can I please just get rid of the chickens? I have people I can just send them on to. So now I'm more of the bartering. I'm like, hey, bread for your eggs? It works. And then the last question I asked myself, actually it's one of my first questions. Does what I'm doing make my home feel hurried or held? Because, let's see, August, September, October, maybe November is marching season. You're about to enter into marching season with me. We have football games every Friday. We have competitions every Saturday. We have after-school practices. We have some days we leave at 3 a.m. at the high school, and we don't get back till 1 a.m. the next morning because we had to drive all the way to Oklahoma City. So what I'm like, this is hurried. This does not make my home feel held. So in those seasons, I have to make sure that I am prepared because I do not have extra. So I team up with Shane, team up with my mom, with my mother-in-law, and I'm like, I just need a little extra help. Because this is something on my plate that I can't really pass off to somebody else. But when I'm making dinner, if I plan ahead of enough time, I'm able to make a nice home-cooked meal that makes my house feel held, instead of me rushing around with my head cut off, trying to pull something together, and it feels more hurried. So that is my side of things, and I'm only telling you my set of things to give you guys an idea. Because I have moms who work. I have moms who have part-time custody. I have grandparents. I have women in here that are, have adult children now. And it very much is season to season. Your values can change. So during marching season, home-cooked meals every night is not always an option. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I shift my focus to something else to make sure that my family feels held, to make sure that there's still peace in my home. So instead of me coming home saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to cook? I'm like, no. I knew that I had to be up there with the kids for uniform fittings. I have oven pizzas ready to go in the freezer. We pull them out, cook. My kids are still fed. My mom is in this, she's an empty nester. My stepdad passed away 3 years ago. And she's relearning what her home is going to look like. She's been opening it up to Bible studies. And she loves it. She gets to feed them because both of our love languages are feeding people. And it's one of those things where with asking those questions of who is in your home, why does it matter, what comes to mind, that you then can talk with friends, come talk to me, if you really want to, ask ChatGPT, because it's been interesting, but you kind of have to weed through some of the stuff. But when you can start focusing on the who, what, why, when, and how, you can start pulling together what your vision is for your home in each season of your life, in each season of the year, and figuring that out. And I'm going to end it with, as I said, I know you probably have a lot more questions than you do answers right now. But there's a quote from C.S. Lewis in the book, The Horse and His Boy, that says, I'm telling you your story, not theirs. Comparison is a huge problem for women. And I know as I stand here and you're like, I don't have time to do home-cooked meals. Who makes bread anymore? Why would anyone want chickens except for the crazy chicken people? You're coming and you're like, how am I supposed to do any of that to make a good cultivated home? That's my story. That's not yours. For ladies who are opening up their home to what in the world, I am getting so many messages. For women who are opening their home that are empty nesters, can you reach out to young women who want to be discipled? Because I'm telling you, there is a hunger for discipling right now. We are in the thick of raising kids. I have a teenager and a toddler, and I don't know what I'm doing with either one of them right now. And I need that godly advice from the women who've been there. For the young ladies who are coming up with it. For you guys to be able to come and talk to the ones who've been newly married, expecting a baby. There's so much wisdom and knowledge that you can find. But the thing is, God wrote each of our stories differently. He's not telling everyone that they have to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschools their children and raises chickens and bakes bread. He's saying, no, I wrote your story uniquely for you in the season that you are in. How are you going to say, yes, Lord, send me in this season? God created each one of us creatively and beautifully to cultivate our homes wherever they are. So seek out what He desires from you. Our calling is not solely a mom, a wife, a daughter, a teacher, a baker, a singer, or a student. Our calling is to glorify God in everything that we do. So while I gave you the practical questions to ask yourself to see what kind of home you want to cultivate and how to cultivate it, the first and foremost question that you need to ask is, does this glorify God in my home and everywhere I go? So I'm going to pray with us. If you guys have questions, I'm sure you probably have some thoughts swimming around, but then we will head next door because they are just now opening up the doors. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for these women who come into here in all stages of life, in all home situations, who just want to know how to cultivate a home that brings you glory. Whether that is opening our doors for a coffee for a friend, hosting a small group, if it's hearing tiny feet running through the home, or loud music and phone call conversations with our teenagers. God, you have created each one of us unique and beautiful and different, and you have a calling for each one of our lives right now. And we ask that we can hear it. We ask that we can be obedient and that we can glorify you through it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.